Black Supremacy is Nattyisisyah. Join the website www.kingnobleuncensored.com. I wanted to make this video to point out some of the blatant contradictions, especially in the Black community, but the conscious community in particular. And I think it's very important that these contradictions are dealt with now, especially with what we are really facing, what we really are up against as a people. We need to deal with issues like what is presented or what has been presented with the passings and the transitions of Eddie Long and Lee Odenak or Q. Because here you have two great leaders in their field who have passed away. Both of them created a legacy. One is a pastor, multi-millionaire pastor of a mega church in Atlanta. Some would call it Gay Atlanta or, just AIDS Atlanta, something, whatever they want to call it. And then you have Lee Odenak Q, the owner of World Star Hip Hop. However, in the conscious community, one of these individuals is praised and the other, his name is tarnished forever. And it's really very sad to see that both of these brothers, the crimes or the allegations that they are on trial for, or have been on trial for while they were alive, that now that they are both gone, that one can be accepted while the other is detested indefinitely. Because in the conscious community, you would think that people who are seeking knowledge, who are seeking wisdom, who are seeking understanding, who are on a path of spiritual enlightenment, who are on a quest for Black unity, Black liberation, and to have a complete revolution and a complete turnaround, a complete overthrow of the oppressive system of white supremacy. You would think that people in the conscious community would be able to make better calls on a person's integrity to the liberation of Black people. Because here you have the man who is behind a social media platform that has promoted and exploited Black people, that has propagated the death, the assault, the harm of Black people. Yet he has found grace in the eyes of many in the conscious community. He is looked at as a Black business owner, because in the conscious community, nothing is more important than whether or not you have a Black business. Because somewhere in many people in the Black conscious community's self-esteem, in their ego, there is a law written that all can be redeemed by having a Black business. Now, I don't know when Black business became such a pivotal point in somebody's worthiness or somebody's ability to provide for their family or their nation or their community. Because when I was coming up, there were what you call hustlers. They didn't have a Black business. They didn't have a stand or a stall. They didn't necessarily have those things. They didn't have somewhere where they employed others, or you clocked in or you clocked out, or they hired black people that they could go to the government at during tax season and they could put down where they worked and they could get their little check. And they, they definitely didn't have nowhere where you could get a check bi-weekly from this black business owner. But in the conscious community, if you are a black business owner, you can do no wrong to many in the conscious community. I don't subscribe to that. But in the conscious community, black business owners are God. There's a lot of talk about the black woman being God, but no. If you're a black business owner, you can get away with murder. That's the message here. You can get away with the propagation of murder. On the other hand, you have Eddie Long. Eddie Long is accused of having homosexual intercourses with 4 young black men from his congregation, or that had some type of involvement in his congregation. And out of these allegations, whether they are true or not, doesn't matter in the conscious community. But out of these allegations, who many will even argue whether they are allegations simply for the fact that the allegations were ever made, because in the conscious community, all you need is allegations. People in the conscious community, they're not even using psychic powers. They're not using any type of intuition, any type of insight, wisdom, anything. All you need is for somebody to say that you are gay, you're homosexual. All you need is an allegation in the conscious community, and you are condemned to the hells of Jesus Christ, because people in the conscious community are still Christians. That's probably going to go over everybody's head, because they are Christians in the conscious community, a lot of them who subscribe to this type of judgment. But here you have a man who has been accused of a homosexual relationship. So thereby, any possible good he has ever done is thrown into the pits of hell. However, Eddie Long was not just a mega pimp pastor as has been portrayed. And I would like for you all to go and watch the videos that King Noble has made on Eddie Long, because he has some deep insight into the destruction and the tearing down of this black leader, who many of you may not subscribe to whether or not he's a black leader or not. But if you are not from the city of Atlanta, if you have not been to Atlanta, if you have not traveled from outside of Atlanta to there to see the difference in the economic structure and of the black community compared to where you're at, and compared to where you have been hearing this negative information about pastors from Atlanta, you will never understand how a pastor like him could become a mega millionaire. But one of these men here made their millions, made their money from bloodshed, from assault, from injustices against black people. And he profited off of that. He capitalized off of that. He became wealthy. He became large. He got large off of that. He put some fat under his ribs off of the bloodshed, the killing, the murder, the destruction of black men and black women. One of these individuals made millions from that. He made a legacy, a business. And the other made money from other rich and wealthy individuals who did not necessarily gain their resources from the bloodshed, murder, and destruction of black people, but however, more than likely through the empowerment of those, even if from the Bible. And this is the interesting part, because even if Eddie Long was a homosexual, even if he had sexual relations with 4 young black men, even if you want to consider him a pedophile, Eddie Long may have been more conscious, more enlightened, more liberated than many black men and women in the conscious community themselves. He may have been less of a Christian than a lot of you. And a lot of you want to come down on him for that. You are judging him by biblical standards. When you call him a homosexual and a sodomite and all these things, you get a lot of these terms sodomite from the Bible. You're judging him by the very thing that a lot of conscious people are supposed to be against, which is the white man's Bible, which is Christianity, which is white imperialist theology that was used to enslave us. Is it not possible that Eddie Long could have elevated beyond Christianity? However, as a pastor and a leader of millions of people, or I don't know exactly how many, it could have been thousands of people, but we're talking about mega churches. So as a leader of a mega church with thousands of people, to just turn your back on them, or to just tell them, well, you know what, we are going to be studying Kemet today. We are going to be reading about, you know, Pan-Africanist black leaders. We're going to be reading about some revolutions. You know, we're going to be learning revolutionary strategy. We're going to go, we're going to plant some vegan gardens. Forget the Bible. We're going to learn about chakras and crystals today. In the Bible Belt, we're going to learn about voodoo. We're going to, the black woman is God. We're learning about Yemaya and Oshun and, how would you go about converting thousands of people that when you were misled into believing in Christianity, all of a sudden you're supposed to convert all of these people? So he may have had challenges there. And to act as though no black person is beyond challenges, to compare yourself to Lee Odenat, who promotes murder and mayhem, and to give him a pass because apparently we're all just as bad as some people in the conscious community would like to say. However, with a man who had millions at his fingertips, who he has been leading every week, every Sunday, and to just switch on them and say, we're studying chakras, we're having a debate, we're going to open up the floor to, these two conscious community debaters. That's what we're doing this week. You expect something like that to happen. So there's definitely a lot of inconsistencies in how people in the conscious community are judging the lives and the deaths of these 2 men. And who's to say that the first thing that Eddie Long studied when he more than likely or possibly became enlightened outside of Christianity, who is to say that the first thing that he had studied might not have been something on some type of androgynous being or some type of tantra, something that went beyond the gender roles. that a lot of black men and women struggle with. Who's to say that that wasn't one of the first things that he embarked upon learning, and he got caught up in that? Because you expect him to convert his parishioners. So who is to say that in his journey, he came up on what a lot of you might consider the wrong information, but it was something other than Christianity. It was something more eye-opening, something more expansive than just the doctrine of Jesus Christ. You know, maybe he just wanted to completely rebel against that which he may have discovered was what was oppressing him. And so a lot of you are going to argue, oh, these mundane statements. Oh, two men can't create a baby. Two men can't build a family, as though we need you to tell us that. I mean, if you need to type that in the comments that two men cannot reproduce, that is a sign that some people really might not know that. And that you really think that they need you to help them understand that. Like that's very pathetic. However, what I'd like to know is, how can pointing a gun and shooting somebody reproduce black life? How can stabbing somebody in their intestines and in their groin and in their liver, how can that reproduce somebody? How can the things that have been portrayed on World Star Hip Hop reproduce a strong black family, a black nation? How can killing your own people defeat white supremacy? So there's two contradictions. And I'm definitely not saying that one is more conducive to black life, black reproduction than the other. But what I'm saying is that there are some blatant contradictions that need to be looked at and addressed. And people need to stop being on the fence and just stop hating on black people, black leaders, because they're not leading in the way that you want them, because you can't push them, you can't buy them. You couldn't buy off Eddie Long, but you might be able to buy off Leodenad. You might be able to pay him off to get your degenerative video online. You might be able to pay him off. So it raises the question whether some of you are just mad and jealous of Eddie Long, that he could live the lavish life he wanted and still portray himself to be a pastor, while you give Lee Ordonat a pass for truly leading a flock and a sheep of people astray. Why does nobody talk about those flock and those people who have been under the mind control, the World Star Hip Hop mind control matrix? Why doesn't anybody ever talk about those sheep and flocks of black people who were led astray? So the conscious community has some serious work to do. If you consider yourself part of the conscious community, part of the black community, if you have judged one of these men and condemned the other, you have some serious work to do. Some serious self-seeking, self-searching, soul-searching, some serious meditation, some serious humbling of yourself to do. Because, for one, neither one of these actions will lead to the destruction of white supremacy. However, judging one of these men, condemning one, and giving the other a pass is not going to do that for us either. But what will work is not being a hypocrite, is not bearing false witness. There's definite evidence on World Star Hip Hop of the atrocity that it has left behind, that Lee Odenat and his website has left behind. Allegations from 4 Black men who we don't know, I don't know, might have been paid off themselves. We definitely know that there is the COINTELPRO, and we definitely know that there are agents and forces that want to see Black leadership torn down in any facet, in any reality. We know that that exists. We see this with Dr. York. We've seen this with King Noble, how they will try to use all these other elements against you to tear down a Black leader. So it will help to at least acknowledge that, and to not throw your people away, not throw your people under the bus because you just don't like them, because they got a little more prosperity consciousness. Look at Leo Odenat. He's passed on. Everybody makes all type of excuses for him. Well, they were trying to kill him. They were trying to take his website away. He should have gave the goddamn website away. He should have erased all the goddamn files. He should have burnt all the freaking hard drives. He should have smashed them to smithereens. He should have, rather than to try to take this thing to the grave with him and not take it down deep enough. But you make excuses for him and why he passed away. And that's another thing. Both of these men had some obvious health challenges. Now, Eddie Long, you all say he's a homosexual. However, he at least, from what we know, tried to deal with his health challenge by becoming a vegan, right? So he might have had some consciousness. He might have come across some of this information that might be coming out of the conscious community, right? That led more towards men becoming in touch with their feminine side or whatever. I'm not making excuses for him. But clearly he was on a path that was more in line with the conscious community than your boy Lee Odenat, who supposedly died of heart failure, probably from eating a completely unhealthy diet, living a completely unholistic life, because the website is a complete contradiction to any type of spiritual practice or any type of holistic type of lifestyle, any type of well-being. A lot of you talk about chakras. That was below the base chakra. That was really degenerate type of activity right there. That was very savage. That was very animalistic type of activity there. But the same people who will attack people for calling people animals in the conscious community will defend somebody who promoted savagery all day. But the other also passed away from health complications. Eddie Long supposedly died of cancer. But with him, you all say he had AIDS, and good for him, and he deserved it. Are those 4 Black men still alive and still standing today? Are their guts stabbed out and broadcasted all over the internet? Join the website kingnobleuncensored.com.